Hi, everybody. So this week we've been talking about retelling. So from the past 2 days, we've been talking about fiction. Okay, so readers can retell texts. First of all, you tell the most important information and you put it in order. Well, we have talked about fiction, which is also literature. And so let me scroll this down here a little bit. And I don't think you can see, but again, I'll take a picture of this and maybe you can see a little bit better. But we've talked about the setting, when and where the story takes place. We've talked about the characters in the story. We've talked about what the problem in the story is. And then finally, what the solution is. So that is for fiction. So boys and girls, let's look over here at what Mrs. Holman has. We know that there's also nonfiction, and that's informational. It gives us information. Maybe you like to learn about animals, or maybe you like to learn about history or science or how to do things. Those are informational books, which are also called nonfiction. Well, today, boys and girls, we are going to learn about retelling nonfiction. And what I have up here is it's like kind of like a web, okay? And so I'm going to use this today to help retell a book on penguins. So what I have first is that I just I'm kind of peeking it out there. We're going to be learning about penguins today. So my topic, which is penguins, is going to go kind of in the center of my web. And this actual web is going to be on our reading lessons page so that you can use it and maybe print it off if you have a printer. If not, you could always draw this web to help you retell a nonfiction story. So in this book, Penguins, it has different topics. So one of the first topics we're going to talk about is where. Where can we find penguins? So I'm going to put that up right on the top of this oval. And notice how the oval's divided into sections. So that means that you could write 3 things, or even less about where penguins are from. Or you could even divide it into more if you wanted to write more about where penguins were from or retell more. The next one that we're going to talk about is body parts. So I made a heading for this one, body parts of the penguin we're going to learn about. Another category that we're going to retell about is baby chicks. So we know that penguins have babies and they are called chicks. So that's one of the categories also. And then the last one, there are many different types of penguins. And so that's going to be my last title down here for this oval. And so I'm going to model how I would retell a nonfiction text about penguins. Now, boys and girls, I'm going to go ahead and draw your eyes back to me. Okay. And so I also printed out, which you can find on our reading page too, a large oval. Okay, this is going to help me retell parts of the story, or parts of the text, I should say, because this isn't really a story. Okay, so I'm just going to use this as a guide, but if you print this off, you can actually write in it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to just kind of peel off here is the word where. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about in our penguin book is where they're from. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll put this down for now while I read, and then I'll pick it back up. Make myself a little smaller. Okay. What are they? What birds cannot fly? What birds spend most of their lives in the ocean but are not fish? What birds live in the coldest part of the world all year long? They swim, they march, they slide through the snow. They are penguins. Okay, so great. This next one says where. So I'm going to pay extra close attention because I want to retell this part. Where are they? Bird words. An equator is an imaginary line halfway between the North and the South poles, and the coast is where land meets water. All penguins live between the equator and the South Pole. Some live where it's cold. Some live in warmer places like the coasts of Africa or Australia. Penguins live on islands, on coasts, and even on icebergs in the sea. They just need to be near water because they spend most of their lives in the water. So I'm going to pull up this oval again, okay? And I'm just going to use it as a guide to talk about where these penguins were from. So do you remember one place the penguins were from? Yeah, if you said Africa, I know they mentioned Africa. They talked about Australia. And of course, they talked about Antarctica where it's cold. And they probably live on icebergs in Antarctica. So I use this as a guide to tell me where the penguins were from. Okay, do you see how I did that? I read it, and then I use this as a guide. I know that I read that some were from Africa, Australia, and Antarctica. Okay, let's try another one and then we'll try some together. So I'm going to stick this back up here. And the next thing we're going to talk about is body parts. So I'm going to move my next heading up here and we're going to be looking at body parts. So I'm going to skip. Oh, no, this is the actual right page that I want. So not just any bird. Penguins are perfect for their lives at sea. They have a sleek shape for speed. A layer of blubber keeps them warm. Big webbed feet for better steering. Layers of soft feathers trap heat. Stiff, oily feathers on top keep out water. Stiff flippers act like boat paddles to push and steer. Big eyes to see underwater. And then it has a bird word at the bottom, which is webbed, which means connected by skin. So what were some of the body parts? So I'm going to model this for you. So I know I read about their big webbed feet. So that's something about their body. They have stiff flippers. I read about that. They have big eyes. And another thing, so even if I wanted to draw a line through here, I could point to another section, and they have soft feathers to keep in the heat for their bodies. All right, nice job. Now what I'm going to do is have you think, and I'll pause a little bit while we go to the baby chicks page. Okay, so again, I have this graphic organizer. I put up the baby chicks. So let's find that baby chicks. So much information in nonfiction. So this is called A Chick is Born. Most penguins lay 2 eggs at a time, but often only 1 egg survives. The mother and father take turns keeping the egg warm. When it hatches, the parents keep the chick warm and fed. After a couple of weeks, hundreds or even thousands of chicks wait together while the parents go back to the sea to find food. As the chicks wait, they are in constant danger from squaws, eagles, and other animals. Finally, the parents return with food. They have to find their chicks in a huge crowd of baby birds. How do they do it? The baby birds sing special songs to help their parents find them. In a few months, the whole family returns to the sea. So let's go back And what are some of the things that you can retell about baby chicks? Did you say how penguins lay eggs? That the baby chicks hatch from eggs? Okay. Did you mention that the mother and the father try to keep them warm? What else? Do their parents feed them? That's another important thing. And this was so interesting to Mrs. Holman, so I want to make sure I mention it in my retell. But how do the parents find their baby birds when they come back? Did you say they sing a special song for their parents to find them? Yes, I didn't know that. So if I were retelling that, I would really want to make sure that I included that. All right, nice job. And our last one that we're going to talk about right now is types of penguins. Okay, so again, I put my title up here so you can kind of see it a little better. And we're going to find our types of penguins page. And we remember if before we left from school, we talked about some penguins. We talked about the rockhopper penguin. We talked about what other penguin? Do you remember? All right, yeah, so there are all different types of penguins. There are 17 different species or kinds of penguins. There's the fairy penguin, which is the smallest, the Galapagos penguin, snares, Fjordland, I think that's how you pronounce that, or Fordland, I'm not sure. Erect crested penguin. There's that rockhopper one we talked about. Yellow-eyed penguin, African, Magellanic. I'm not sure. Mrs. Holman, I think, probably messed that word up. But the African penguins are the loudest. They sound like donkeys. There's the royal penguin, the macaroni penguin, Adelie penguin, Humboldt, chinstrap, Gentoo, king, and the largest is the emperor penguin. So there are so many different types of penguins that we can talk about in our retell. So now you wouldn't have to pick all of these. Maybe you could just pick 3. Which 3 would you be interested in? Well, I think the fairy one is so cute because he's the smallest. So maybe I would talk about the fairy penguin. He's the smallest. And then maybe I'd talk about the emperor penguin being the largest. And then I think it was so interesting to me that the African penguin sounds like a donkey. So I might talk about him in my retell because that is a really interesting fact to me. So, boys and girls, retelling nonfiction is a little bit different. But if you use an oval like this, also called a graphic organizer, it helps you to organize your thoughts. So today, your job is to pick a nonfiction book. Maybe you can find one on Epic that Mrs. Holman sent information about yesterday. Maybe you have some nonfiction books at home. And if you either can draw an oval that looks like this to help you retell, or I even put these on the web page so that you can print them off if you have a printer. Okay, so great job listening today, and happy retelling. Let me know how it goes. All right, have a good day.